Hi everyone, welcome to Type Talks. Today we have Ren. He is the author of The Ecstatic Soul, a book for INFJs, and he's here to explain how it's like to date an INFJ from an INFJ. And so, Ren, could you let us know how it's like to date you?
Thanks, Joyce, for having me here and for giving me the opportunity to talk about my strange dating life. It's not so strange anymore, but it certainly has been strange in the past. When I say strange, I just mean that it's been kind of intense. And I don't know if every INFJ might recognize themselves in that, because we often hear that INFJs are, say, compared to P types, the ISFP types, and P types in general, you hear INFJs are maybe a little bit more conservative with their dating life, they're private, and usually, like, if they like someone, they stick with them. They don't change partners often or whatever. Now, in my case, I'm not trying to claim, that I am a serial womanizer. That I've been on a lot of in a lot of relationships. That would not be the case. However, what I would say is that I have been on quite a few. I have been over the years. I've been on many dates, and that is partly because dating apps are providing us with that opportunity, and you can end up going on a date. And I think because I'm probably on the sort of slightly more, I don't know what to, it's linked to my YouTube channel, like the slightly more not necessarily very extroverted, but kind of confident extrovert, slightly more extroverted INFJ. That that's something I talk about in my book as well, trying to promote the idea of being social, of going out in the world. uh, I'm comfortable going on dates, and there are a number of things that, when I look back, I'm able to observe that, there's certain like features that come back. I think that in the early days of the dating process, I can come across a bit like quite intense for some people. So if the other person is kind of on my wavelength in terms of intensity, then it can work well and progress. But in some cases, a person could be like absolutely fine, attractive to me. I might be attractive to them, but maybe I just want to go into the deep stuff too early. So during a first date, it's like, and again, I think that there's a correlation with INFJs, because INFJs are fascinated to know how people work, what are their motivations, what is the meaning behind what they do. So I could end up in the middle of the first date, like literally after an hour and a half, talking about, I could be telling the person I'm in on date with, yeah, so you studied all the way to a PhD, but like, do you think that you were maybe just trying to impress your parents? Like, I'd be capable of getting to the stage where I could just say that and like talk about personal stuff. And I mean, not personal necessarily in terms of private, because I'm very private. A lot of INFJs are, but I would talk about the psychology of stuff. More often than not, I end up asking them if they know about MBTI or if they know about Jung and stuff like that. And if they answer yes, oh God, they don't know what's waiting for them. So I think that I come across well on a date. I think that I'm a good listener and I can be charming. Like the FE side of the INFJ can help, but there's still always going to be that undercurrent of, okay, behind that, I am a bit of a weirdo. I am really into these deep topics, and I'm unable to contain myself even during the first date. If we make it past that point, though, and it really helps if the other person is a bit of a nerd, is also someone who likes the same topics, and as it happens, my partner is exactly like that. She's an INFJ too, so that helps. Um, then it's perfect. Then because basically we feed off each other. Like even now, like when I talk to my partner and we've been together for quite a while, like if we Skype, because we don't live in the same country, like half of our conversation could be about the latest book I was reading, or like we read the same book and then we discuss our insights. So it's very nerdy like that. And I think that's for the particular kind of INFJ that I am, having learned to know myself a bit, I probably need someone who's kind of at least a little bit on my wavelength, someone who also has an inner world and is excited to talk about that kind of stuff, particularly, again, psychology, human relationships, that side of things.
INFJs are really interested in understanding the theory behind human behavior. And so they really like those deep kind of conversations to get at the essence or core of why humans do what they do. So, why conversations? Looking at the deeper meaning, trying to figure something out truly, or just having a personal conversation that helps you explore someone's mind or the world more, the universe more is very stimulating. And so INFJs feel like they go too deep too quick, or that the conversations that they like go too deep too quick. And so it can be an interesting experience being on the other end. But they're really looking for someone who is on their wavelength, just as everyone is, as Ren was talking about. And so they really want someone to explore those deeper conversations with. They really want to have someone they can dive a million meters deep with undersea. So they can like really dive deep into a topic to excavate all the value from that topic. And it's nice that you're with an INFJ, and so that you can talk about the things that you like really openly as well, too. And so, Ren, what feedback have you gotten from people that you've dated about your personality or how you're like? What words have been used to describe you?
Good question, Joyce. The first thing that I might want to mention is that it's not happened to me often to ask for feedback from exes, because I like to, and I don't know if that's related in an indirect kind of sense to the door slam side of things, but like when I break up with someone, I try to move on, and I really try to just cut them off from my life. Like I have friends who stay friends with their exes. And I don't judge that. I think that that's perfectly fine if it suits them, but it really doesn't suit me. So, like, if I have an ex, it's like, good luck to them. I wish them the best, but I don't want to be in the picture. I don't want them in the picture, and I'm sure they don't want me in the picture. That being said, yes, I have have received feedback and impressions from people that I've been in relationships with, and of course also from my current partner, who is very INFJ. I like to say in some ways that she's even more INFJ than I am. She's the closest thing to the complete INFJ as I can think of. But maybe I just everything about her is so wonderful. But I'm told, I think that again, I'm deep, that I am passionate, and it's a question I ask myself sometimes. Would INFJs be told that that they are passionate? Is that something that's or am I a bit of an exception? I don't know about that, but I'd say like with the FE, and I think that passion and expressing emotion is important for INFJs because they have this FE function. So they will usually express how they feel, and I am very expressive. I think that partners would say that I would, rather than just maintain this like layer of just not exactly manifesting how I feel. I always try to be as clear in communication as possible. But at the same time, and it's something I've always heard as well, and it's something that we were talking about, I think, in our conversation before we started recording. They do say that there's almost like a part of me that is just inaccessible. It's completely inaccessible, and I give this impression of having a little fortress somewhere in my heart, or I don't exactly know where it is, and that I retreat to it. And they'll say, no, but it's not that you become cold. It's not that you become avoidant. You're still very nice. You're still great. You're still committed, but somehow you're a little bit somewhere else. And that fortress cannot be broken. It cannot be stormed. And I'm not necessarily aware of it. I have a vague sense of what they mean, but it's not like I'm constantly trying to cultivate that private room. But it's something that I'm always told, so yeah, an air of mystery and of a privacy, privacy, certainly private. Someone who's private and modest is something that comes across a lot in what I've heard as well. I don't like to spread my relationship or my feelings. I like to share and be clear with the partners as much as possible. But like when it comes to the more public sphere, I'm uncomfortable with people, you know, like big public displays of affection, that kind of thing. I like to show affection to my partner, to show them that I care and that I love them. But big public displays of affection, it's not for me, and I kind of react to them with a little bit of disgust sometimes. And yeah, so I would say also, like from within the sort of sanctuary of a relationship, especially if it's a relationship that's been going on for a while. I can also be really myself in the fullest sense. So I tend to be a lot more playful than, for instance, people might think when they watch my videos. I can be very silly in a relationship. So maybe some INFJs might recognize themselves. The layer of seriousness and formality and privacy. If they're with someone they really trust, that self that comes into the open will be a lot more playful and mischievous than people might think.
It's a good relationship when it can bring out your silly, goofy side. It means you're safe enough to be yourself around them too. So, yeah, that's awesome. It's quite interesting when you talk about the fortress and how there's always a layer of you that's inaccessible. So it seems like there is this mystery to you, even if you don't mean for there to be, because perhaps maybe you're a layer removed from the world. You're in abstraction rather than fully. It's almost like you're there, but also here at the same time. And so it seems like there's always a layer of you that's somewhere else. With INFJs, they're sometimes described as looking into something. So it's kind of like when you look into something, it's almost like you're looking past the appearance to the thing internally itself. And so it can seem like, wow, you're somewhere else because you're just piercing through things conceptually, but in the world, it's like you're a little detached to the fact that you're human, but you're more of a person who's observing the world rather than a clear 100% participant in it.
If I might just react to that, because I think that you spoke facts, you spoke truth right there, and I had to agree, because you just completed the thought that I hadn't completed. That I had left somewhat incomplete. One thing that really defines me in a relationship is a tug of war between the committed and the emotionally expressive and the affectionate. Okay, that's a big part. It's on that side. But then there's that side. And that side is the detached observer who can occasionally make the date feel like I'm analyzing them. And there's a tension, because I am that affectionate kind of FE kind of man, and I am actually quite open with feelings and affectionate, but then I'm also the NITI guy who just wants to see beyond things, including beyond the person that's in front of me. But the thing is, some people don't necessarily, especially in early dates, they can feel a bit uncomfortable with that, and so it's happened to me more than once to be told that that I was a bit too intense. Not too intense in the sense that I'd be looking at them like this, like intense, like physically, but more in the sense that, in fact, I think I have a bit of a stare when I look at people. So that's part of the intensity, but also this sense that they're being people. Not everybody wants to be spotlighted, and to be like just seen through. It's for a lot of people that's not comfortable, and that's why I think also my INFJ relationship is working well, because it takes an NI dominant to really understand how another NI dominant operates, and they will understand that, and they will not find it too intense. For them, it will just be natural territory. But for some other people, in my experience, FI leads tend to be quite protective of their inner selves, and they might resist the natural tendency of the NI lead, especially NIFE leads, to use FE to navigate towards getting to the core self. The FI lead might be like, which in the past for me has not always been a low-key situation, because I've had a history of being attracted to FI leads. But it took me a while to understand that, at times there could be a bit of a disconnect there. Not necessarily, some FI leads are a bit more open. And I'm not saying that they're right or wrong. It's just, again, that the NIFE drive to just uncover things. And then you have the FILE drive to kind of pull back and be like, no, this is my boundary. This is my private space.
Yeah, there is that INFJ urge to psychoanalyze people or psychoanalyze the world or everything. And so one thing can lead to you trying to understand, like, why does anyone do anything? And so it just leads to trying to question to get at what something is on a deeper level. With INFJs, you almost want to hypothesize what is, but in a way where you get to the heart of something even more. And so that can be in its own way too deep, too fast, and a little intense too. And I also noticed that when NI higher up types get together, they help each other finish each other's thoughts. NI is a conceptual finisher. And so what happens is when NI people get together, they're like, oh, like what Ren just said, he's like, oh, you helped me complete my thought. I was trying to figure out the very last part that would make everything make sense, that would get at the through line of it so that all the dots would line up with each other. And I'd find that line of best fit to figure out the phenomenon behind that. And then that was the final piece. And so when you have NJs dating each other, they end up being able to help finish each other's thoughts. It's like, that was the final piece that helped me bring that deeper. And so I feel like INFJs are also looking to finish their thought. It's almost like they have that, I know I haven't fully reached the complete answer for that. And I'm trying to just keep going deeper until something clicks and it all clicks together. And so that's something that you brought up. And so I'm wondering, Ren, if there's anything you'd like to add on to that as well, or anything you'd like to add on to this conversation of dating as well.
Yes, indeed. And once again, Joyce, because you're such a gifted interviewer, you made my job easier by giving me all the clues I needed, because I was thinking of something and then you just mentioned. In fact, you helped me complete my thoughts, and I'm wondering if there's not just exactly what you were describing. So here is my thought, and maybe my concluding thought on this topic as well, is that I am dating an INFJ. I'm an INFJ dating an INFJ. Does that mean that INFJs should date INFJs necessarily? No. Of course, first of all, you can't really decide who you're attracted to, so that's a moot point. But there's going to be it's a trade-off. There's advantages and there's what you could call maybe not disadvantages, but growth areas to every kind of relationship. So if you're dating an NI dominant and you're an NI dominant, so an INFJ, yes, like one of the huge perks is this idea that you're symbiotically linked in your thought process. Another NI lead partner, like with my partner happens all the time, like I complete her thoughts, she completes my thoughts. It's awesome. Now, I think that the benefits of dating someone who has a different function stack is that, well, at first, certainly you won't get that convergence. So it can seem a bit more jagged, a bit more stilted, and it can be frustrating at first. Maybe it can almost give the INFJ the impression that maybe they're not really made for each other because the chemistry is not there. In fact, it might be there, but in a different way. So in my experience, having dated people from other types, is that you won't get that convergence, but you might get glimpses of other worlds that you might not have been looking at if you had been only ever dating another INFJ. A different way of looking at things, a different way of appreciating things, just a different way of thinking, really. So it gives like windows on other things, and I think that INFJs should be open to that and not assume necessarily that if there are INFJs, they should only date INFJs. There's something to be found in every kind of type, every kind of relationship with someone of the same type or a different type. But my relationship with my partner is really one of convergence. It's like we just get each other. Part of it is because we've been together for a while, but certainly from the very start, the NI convergence in thought has been really present. And I get novelty. I still get lots of novelty because she's from a different culture. She's from North Africa. She's from a different religion, so I get plenty of novelty from that. And again, we really love to have our NI discussions, and our moments of playfulness and affection as well. So those were my concluding thoughts.
That's a really good point, Ren. And so, with different kinds of relationships, there are different gifts and different stretch areas as well. So, yeah, that's really well put. You tied it up in quite the philosophical, pondering fashion that you typically talk in. So, you're like, in conclusion, here are my thoughts. So, with intuitives, if you date them, you'll hear a lot of hypotheticals. Like, Ren is exploring how it would be like to date another type too, and bringing us through the intellectual thought process behind that. That is stimulating to INFJs to understand the abstract chain of thought behind certain topics. And so you'll hear these ponderings that INFJs have about the world, the universe, or the topic of their choice. A lot of them are humanitarian too, so they like to discuss topics around things that affect human beings. It's just interesting that Ren has a philosophical background. It's also an INFJ thing to have a tilt towards those kind of ways of thinking. INFJs oftentimes have original takes on common issues. And so the perspective that they have might be a little different than the society around them. And it's just a new way of looking at something. And so what an INFJ can provide is a different way to approach common topics. And so thank you, Ren, for coming out and discussing your wondrous mind. And thank you, audience members, for checking out this video. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.